Good morning. Ladies and gentlemen, we will start the next session called Additive Manufacturing and Laser Systems. My name is Edward Chlebus. I'm professor at the Wrocław University of Technology. It is students' town. The population is 650,000 people, and we have 150,000 students in the city. And it is very important to develop new ideas and application in this session. I would like to welcome our speakers, Mr. Hudak from Slovakia.
Good morning.
Mr. Klaus Beryl, from Norwich SNTF.
Nice to see you all.
Mr. Ścibisz from Poland, Lasertech. So, additive manufacturing, laser technology is very important. On this picture you can see the last road mapping made before 4 years and coordinated in European project by the colleague from Badenborn. And the pictures could explain what we are looking for in additive manufacturing. You can see that the most important are the dimension of chamber, processing chamber, to 1 meter and the best to 8 meter. It is by powder bed technology, it is the surface processing, accuracy, porosity in metals is the main, very important criteria of this technology. I would like to inform you that in next week in Brussels will be European Additive Manufacturing Conference coordinated by the colleague from TNO, Netherlands, Mr. Frits Venstra. It is European technology platform from additive manufacturing, and I think you could register and participate. So, and now we would like to start 2 presentations. The first will be Radovan Hudak, Vice Head of Department of Biomedical Engineering and Measurement, Faculty of Mechanical Engineering, Technical University of Košice, CBD Biomedical Engineering, this private company, Slovakia. Please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for introduction. Dear ladies and gentlemen, it's my pleasure being here to give you a presentation on medical application of additive manufacturing. I am not only who is involved into this topic in Košice in Slovakia. We have 2 teams. One is at the Technical University, at the mentioned department. There are 10 people, led by Professor Jozef Živčák, and in CEIT Biomedical Engineering Company, there are 8 employees led by Bruno Goban. And of course, we are in a medical field, so we are cooperating with surgeons. I'm using opportunity to be the first speaker to tell you what is additive manufacturing. I am sure that if you are sitting here, you know it. And this is the most known definition by or according to ASTM standard. But I'm sure that you met with additive manufacturing in your life. For instance, if you are building your house, you are placing brick upon a brick until the house is completed. Is that additive manufacturing? That you are using sophisticated hardware and sophisticated software to produce your parts. And of course, they are using also 3D printing term, but with additive manufacturing is used interchangeably. So if you will tell 3D printing, it will be the same as additive manufacturing. I prefer term additive manufacturing because some of those technologies are not really printing material from the nozzle. So let's tell you something about the history from medical additive manufacturing. It started paradoxically not in additive manufacturing itself as a field, but it started with invention of CT and MRI, because now we are using mostly those technologies for creating a 3D model, for creating implants, custom or also in series. Then, most now invention by Chuck Hull in '83, when stereolithography was invented. Then another applications in medical fields. For instance, in year 2000, there are a lot of studies which are telling that in this year really started medical application. In 2003, there was successfully separated co-joined Egyptian twins, and in 2003 was also first implant printed out of titanium, or it means the metal. 2007, virtual surgical planning as a beginning of surgical guides production in medical field. And in 2008, with Professor Zivčák, we came with the idea to start with additive manufacturing in Slovakia. I visited Chicago University. They already used their 3D printing, so I was inspired from them and also from Slovenia, where they started with some ideas. In 2010, company CEIT Košice was developed or established. Under that was renamed to CEIT Biomedical Engineering, and in the same year, FDA cleared first implant, which was implanted to the first patient. And the other invention, and what about the future? If I read some material, some studies, probably 3D printing will assist at the surgery. So you will have an open wound and 3D printer about the patient, and we will print directly into the tissue, probably in 20, 30 years, who knows. New bioresorbable material will come, and we will pay attention to those materials in this field, and a lot of patents will expire, so it will move forward also development and research in this field. In the year 2010, we were successful with one big project for 2 million euros called Research of the New Diagnostic Methods in Invasive Implantology. And using this funding money, we use them for creating new labs for medical additive manufacturing production. You see some pictures in front of you where you see some visit from China in our new built lab, and some pictures from the first patient. An application of magnetic microwires into the implant as we are trying to develop intelligent bionic implant. What about the company? Also, I told you that we started in 2010. We have 8 employees. Our 3 main activities is free for modeling, development of prototypes, manufacturing of certified custom and serial implants, and research and development in this field. Some activities in more detail. It is necessary to say that the tricky or the hardest work on this development was to obtain approval to deliver implants into the medical field or to the clinical space. Since 2013, we are approved to deliver 4 kinds of implants: custom-made cranial, custom-made maxillofacial, custom-made craniomaxillofacial, and custom implant for chest surgery. Of course, we have effort to develop also the other fields like traumatology, orthopedics, and the others. This is the cooperation, local cooperation in Košice. We have a lot of universities and research institutions there, so we have narrow cooperation with almost all of them. I have to say that very important is cooperation with Košice IT Valley. Through this institution, we moved forward to Medical Valley in Germany. Additive manufacturing step by step. At the beginning is diagnostics, then we obtain the CT or MRI data, then we are creating the CAD model, then manufacturing, creating the real titanium model, validation, surgery, and at the end is hopefully happy patient. Input data, MRI, CT, ultrasonographic data, but in some cases we are using also data from surface scanners. Our machine is from German company EOS, using 200-watt laser, and we are using 2 materials. One is TI-64 grade 5, and another one is grade 23, is Eli purified titanium. This is our new lab at the Technical University, where we have another 6 machines, 2 for big plastic parts, 1 metal machine from Concept Laser Company for dental production, and CNC milling machine. And in this lab is also a machine for bioadditive manufacturing or for bioprinting, because we see a future in this field. So 1 year we already dealing with applications in bioadditive manufacturing. Quality control, as Mr. Chairman said, is very important. So for these purposes we are using CT, industrial CT from Carl Zeiss company. And we are using this machine especially for geometrical verification and validation and for inner material inspection. So we want to know if in the materials are some air bubbles or cracks or some inhomogeneity. This is very important for medical application. Except of industrial CT, we are using also another machines like coordinate measurement machines, surface scanners, 3D body scanner, thermocamera, and many others for mechanical testing and so on. Our first case study was the cranial implant, implanted in 2013. Was a guy who had some accident. After that, he had his own bone implanted as a cranioplasty. He fell down in a forest, unfortunately, and his implant was burrowed down into the brain, and he had difficulties with the health. So we helped him by building a new titanium implant, and this is the whole process until the last picture is a blue implant with fixation elements. I call it ears, with some holes where screws are placed to fix the implant on the human skull. Each fixation element we are trying to develop individually, because we have to measure the bone and to give advice to the surgeon about the length of the screws which he has to put there, because it's very important to not go through the cortical bone to the brain. Some pictures from the surgical planning. Bloody pictures from the surgery. You see implant has 75 grams, how we placed it, sutured, and at the end the patient. And this is the patient a couple of days after the surgery and 14 months after the surgery, so you don't see almost any sign of the surgery on his head, and he's dealing very good after the surgery. Another patient, he fell down from the 4th floor in Prague. He was a worker there. After injury, he stayed in coma. It was a pretty large defect, almost 35% of his skull. You see parameters of cranial implant on the pictures and the process, how we build it. This is patient before the surgery. A couple of months after the surgery, you see how that patient started to walk. It was a big medial event in Slovakia. It was almost in all media because patient came on a wheelchair. He had difficulty to speak, to walk, and after the surgery, he started to walk and he played chess with his father. So it was really successful story, because we released the pressure which was in his brain due to PMMA implant he had in his skull. This is another case study, big maxillofacial implant. Again, after the surgery, it was a car accident. Patient had almost 87% of his face missing. We couldn't use mirroring in this case because he had damaged also the right side of his face. So we had to collect data from the another patients. So we collected 50 CT data from the hospital, and we built together implant from the 4 patients. And this is the result, and this is how it looks after the production. So you see that we use some porous structures around the mouth for soft tissues ingrowth. 2 years ago, we were one of the 5 companies in the world who were able to produce porous structures using additive manufacturing by DMLS technology, because our company started with this earlier, but DMLS together with Within software enabled us to produce these kind of structures where you see 7 kind of porous structures and different porosity which we could use. This is another examples of our special implants. You see mandibular implants on the picture. These implants allows you to dilate this implant because it was 14 years old girl, and she had difficulties with opening the mouth because of the fibrom. So we produce this kind of implant with the moving parts and the screws. So after time we will just take screws out, dilate a little bit the implant, put screws back, and it will remain on the place in her mouth. And also porous structure was there implemented, and on the right side you see a picture of the 3D model of the chest implant, chest bone implant with some ribs. This is for the hospital in Bratislava. Now we are cooperating with more than 7 surgeons in Slovakia, and you see that we are producing also serious or serial implants for 3 or 4 big world producers, for instance, of spinal implants and the other kind of implants. And of course, behind of our success is a lot of R&D. So we are sometimes producing a lot of samples for testing. Below you see some companies which we are cooperating with. I have to mention Materialize, biggest software producer for additive manufacturing, within for the software for porous structure, EOS, and the other companies. This is the fishbone diagram or Ishikawa diagram. You are probably familiar with this kind of diagrams, and this diagram shows you how many parameters you have to consider with additive manufacturing. You see a lot of parameters. It will be a long process to be completely familiar with the technology, to set up parameters, to get repeatability, precision, accuracy, and the other important parameters. So I have to say that it's still not plug-and-play technology. 3D bioprinting is our big deal because I see the future in this. So it's cooperation of more fields together. Now we are printing new patented material which was patented here in Bratislava at faculty at Slovak Technical University. It was first printed in our lab, and we have another projects. Now active projects is about additive manufacturing or 3D printing of hydroxyapatite together with Austrian company. We have project for 3D printing of PEEK. This is the polymer which will be a future of implantation materials, and we have projects together with some institution in Bratislava, tissue bank and so on 3D printing of human urethra. All projects are supported by Slovak Ministry of Education, Science, Research and Sport. We were involved by Aalto University from Finland into the Horizon project, and we also applied for Interact. We are just waiting for results. And about the future, AM is still growing. This is the cure from Spain, but I think the same pattern is almost in all countries. And on the right side, you see the company of the future, where you will have machines in a line, and at the end is dismantling and post-processing, which will be also automated. Policy recommendation. So we have already 6 years experiences, 8 years together. Quality control of produced parts is very important. Insufficient repeatability, post-processing complications are familiar in this field. There is a demand for European medical AM standards. In Slovakia is missing cluster of additive manufacturing. Should be some effort to create this kind of institution. Cooperation among European clusters, institution, organization should be established, and somehow let support of successful project is very important, and reinforce and support of the spin-offs and startups. This is really something what we are speaking about, but the practice is a little bit different. So thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much for a very interesting lecture and presentation. It will be good if you don't use it. The next presentation will be held by Klaus Boivi, senior researcher at REinEU Refuse Manufacturing. The Klaus started his career in additive manufacturing in 1997, and in 2004 defended his PhD thesis. The next 8 years was employed by Additive in Trondheim, Norway, and now developed the additive manufacturing technologies and industrial application road mapping, and very, very active is in standardization of these technologies, and I think it will be reported us. Please, Klaus.
Thank you very much. Do you hear me? Thank you very much. I would like to talk. We have heard a lot today about different research projects. We'll hear more about it. And I suppose many of you have heard even before about research projects. I would like to speak a little bit more about what are the challenges to get this more industrialized. What is it that is not, why, or what can we do to make this a part of the industrial revolution, because that is what we're here for. To begin with, what do you mean by additive manufacturing? There have been some presentations before what it's all about, but I'd like to see a little bit more about what is in the definition. We talked about it's a process of joining materials to make parts from 3D model data, usually layer upon layer, as opposed to subtractive and formative manufacturing technologies. From this definition, it's quite clear to say that additive manufacturing is enabled by the creation and communication from a 3D model file. So the information in that model file, you have to have this information and communication to actually make the part. That's one thing. The other thing is that this is also characterized how the material is added. It means the mechanism how to deliver the material to the point of addition is actually determines what kind of geometries it's suitable to make and what kind of characteristics it will have. And also the mechanism of joining the material feedstock is characterized what kind of material properties you will get out of it. And this is actually a subject to laws of physics and chemistry, and I'm repeatedly astonished how many times people fail to recognize this. Too many people think that this is just push a button, you get whatever you want. That's not really the case. All in all, this is actually very good news for Europe, because Europe is completely dominating for making the machines, the additive manufacturing machines for powder bed fusion. We have all these EOS, LEM solutions, Consultation, Renishaw, Realize, and also Arcam making. They're all based in Europe. We also have a very strong industry in powder metallurgy, both powder manufacturing and also using of these technologies and applications. And there is also very good, high competence in using 3D model data and in communication in 3D CAD and stuff. We have this already. And then also, as we have representatives here, there's some real good, competent, experienced RTD organizations, universities that have done some fantastic research projects, very good ones. But it's a bit, okay, not all regions in Europe are equally good, but it's there. Still, we're waiting for the industrial breakthroughs on a wide scale. There are some applications that are doing quite well. We heard earlier about medical. I mentioned that dental implants, it's really started to get this breakthrough around 2009. Today, EOS company, that's just one of the machine manufacturers. They estimate that they have 60 machines installed, dedicated just producing dental implants. More than 6.8 million implants are made every year in EOS machines only. Then there are all the others. And orthopedic implants, mentioned also earlier here, trabecular structures built onto actually standard form of hip implant cup, can be fixed so that it grows in very nicely. This is a standard structure, standard model. but they're CE certified, they're FDA cleared, and they're also cleared in China. So far this year in Europe, we have passed 55,000 of these produced this year in Europe alone. And then they're also produced in the United States and all the way over to China. So we'll most likely pass 100,000 of these cups produced this year. Injection molding inserts. You can make conformal cooling channels, complex inner structures. It means that you can significantly reduce the cycle times. The tools are quite expensive, but if you reduce the cycle times by 20 to 50%, Lego, quite well-known Danish injection molding company, reduces it by about 30%. And 30% reduced cycle times for somebody with a production scale as Lego, that's a lot of money. And it makes them much more competitive, makes work in Europe more competitive. And also they reduce the quality. Actually, there's also said 30% product quality improvement. The same with tool lives, also lives much longer. So quite clearly, with using AM inserts, it's very good for their business in terms of their normal production. Another application is with RCAM. There's EBM process, electron beam melting process. There was a company in Italy called Avio. They started to investigate if they could use EBM to make titanium aluminide turbine blades. Titanium aluminide is a fantastic material. It's very lightweight. It's also very temperature resistant, so it's quite stiff and strong at high temperatures. But the problem with it is that it's difficult to cast, it's difficult to machine, but it turned out to be very, very good for AM. So good that when they actually had sorted out the process, they built a whole new plant to make AM parts with this. And GE Aviation looked at this and said, hey, this is important for us. We buy Avio. And now this year they placed a bid to buy RCAM 2, makes the machines, and that was $685 million US. At the same time they also placed a bid to buy SLM Solutions. The last thing I heard is these bids will probably not go through, but it shows that if you find the right application for AM, with AM, it can have a really strong impact on the manufacturing, can be really disruptive for the industry. And also there's a great will to invest from industry. Now the application, Siemens Turbo Machinery in Sweden, they did repairs for the burner tips. And these burner tips, they're made of Hastelloy X. It's high temperature. It's actually they're being worn. And if they've worn down the tip too much, they need to repair it. Standard repair method is actually cut off the tip and then mill a new one and then weld it back on. The cycle time for these repairs was 44 weeks. That's expensive. What they figure out that if you just mill off the tip of the very top of it and then build it by AM, they could actually have the cycle time for that with 4 weeks. That's a reduction in repair by 90%. And of course, when they find out this, well, 20 million investment to build a new plant for do this repairs is quite obvious. They did it, of course. And they also, when they have this, then they start to look deeper into their production, what more parts can be advantageous to use for AM. So then the cycle of innovation has started within that company. So it's quite clear that AM is gaining momentum through industry, but it's done application by application. And successful application exploitation AM, it will give a huge impact and also fantastic investments. But this relies on that you actually find the right application and the right market. You need to have a development of a sustainable business model. As they are making money, they will not do it. And you need a practical solution for the production. So Europe needs to develop an infrastructure to enable this industrial application of AM technology. Thinking back, last time we had not last, but an earlier industrial revolution, Henry Ford told us, if I had asked people what they really wanted, they would have asked faster horses. The thing is, people tend to think in linear terms. So a very common question from industry is, can you make this faster and cheaper? Just a little device standard product. And of course the answer is 99% said no. Most products we have today are admirably adapted to the available production system. But if they, for example, want a higher value in some way, maybe they can have something like this. More complex inner structure. Suddenly, if that is an added value, then it can make sense. And we need to educate and train industry in thinking in these terms and finding these potential gains. So there's a big need for build-up in knowledge in industry, most of all. Both the users, those who could use the AIM technology, but also the customers, so they know what to expect from these technologies. For example, people say we get bad surfaces. Well, if you sandcast an object, you get a sandcast surface. If you forge an object, you get a forged surface. If you mill an object, you get a milled surface. If you polish an object, you get a polished surface. You won't get a polished object by making AM, you get an AM surface. You need to understand these things. You will not get the same material properties as if it was a milled part. You will get the material properties as of an AM part. You need to see additive manufacturing as a process, another tool in the tool chest. So industry need to learn what to use the technology for, why they use it, what kind of business model, what are the benefits to use it, and then how to do it production-wise, how to get a good production solution. But then also we need to develop a structure, we need to lecture structure around this. We need to have a functional legislation. We need to have regulations, trade regulations, certification system for the products. And also we need to have a coherent standard, preferably one that actually is the same all over the world, so that when we act on the world market, we only have to adapt to one set of standards. I need to speed up a little bit. And I would argue how we should do this, we might need to start to work on the level where industry is today. Basically, the fundamental is, what are the technologies, what are the products, what are the productions that are out today, what are the market, and then see how can we apply the available AM techniques which are on the market today to actually enhance this, to get these extra values for them. When we have this, then when we have the business model, when we have the product, the application, then we can see the production solution, and that will generate new research questions, and that will propagate it higher. So we go from very basic, the markets as they are today, and then go up and improve until we reach the level of that, and then develop new technology and bring it up to the practical applications. Now, back to standardization. The AIM community has been a bit frustrated that industry has been so slow to adapt it, to use it. And one of the keys identified was there was no standards. So in 2009, ASTM International made an initiative to start F42 for additive manufacturing technologies. It was followed up. We need ISO standards too. So the European ASTM F42 members started ISO TC261. Collaboration started quite early. Now there is a joint plan for standards development and actually develop joint standards, ISO ASTM standards. Through an EU project called SASAM, led up to the formation of the CEN TC438. And they are also developing the ISO ASTM standard into European standards. So there is a vision here, driven very much by Europe, to develop one set of standards to be used all over the world. And by doing this, we can have an influence, we can actually build a very good coherent market. Together, ISO and ASTM have developed a total roadmap, a plan, a system structure for how these standards are going to fit in. I will not go into detail here because of losing time. The challenge is, there's been so much talk about additive manufacturing in the last couple of years, or rather 3D printing. Makes that lots of other industry area thinks they want to develop additive manufacturing standards from their perspective, their own ones. I want my own. So in the US, that has been coordinated by National Standardization Institute, the ANSI, to get some kind of order with this. However, in ISO, that is not the matter. So there's the new started an ISO TC44, welding and bracing people. They want to make make a standard for AM in aerospace. But that would be a competitive standard done in a different structure, and that could be a problem. It's a little bit They are very good, of course, very good at welding and brazing, but they're not experts in AM necessarily. So would you trust the dentist to do heart surgery? Would you ask a heart surgeon to do the dentistry? Then other things, as mentioned earlier, we need to get more predictable properties out of the parts. Sure, we are actually getting quite good properties as it is right now, but we need to have them more predictable. There's a variability in the outcome. And we need to do those kind of research projects. But they have to be driven by very clear industrial needs and based on the knowledge that actually is available out there. And it must also be connected to the standardization works that is going on. We are just beginning exploring the many possibilities of AM technology. Knowledge is the most critical issue. We need to have a lot of it everywhere. Industrial breakthroughs are coming, but that is basically application by application. And as a heretic in this room, I suppose, I'd say that it's not a typical research project that creates breakthroughs, but the breakthroughs will create great research projects. No one benefits from fragmentation and competing standards, so we need to work together to get this right. They're not the tip of the iceberg. We are entering a new universe. Short recommendations. We need to do whatever we can to support European industry to use and exploit the benefits of additive. The practical knowledge building, we need learning by doing. They need to be involved. This doesn't help if a researcher or teacher comes out to a company and says, do this. They won't do it because they need to think in a different way, and that needs to be trained. We need to also see AM as a part integrated process in the manufacturing process chain. It's not that magical machine standing in the corner somewhere developing, making strange things. We need to have coherence, coordination in standards for AM, and we need more experts to work on it. The most important limiting factor for standardization AM is the lack of actual experts. And to do this, we could release a lot of experts, free them, if we can bring them in from academia, because that's where much work has been done. But the researcher have no reason to work in AM standardization, because standardization doesn't give you any money, it costs you money. And you don't get credit for it. But if we could give them any research academic credits, equally to sort of like a publication for working on the standard, that would then put a lot of very competent people do a lot of good job for additive manufacturing standardization. Sorry, a little bit over time, but I'm done now.
Thank you very much for a very interesting presentation. And I think we will discuss at the end of the session, and you could prepare the questions on the Slido system. So the next presentation will be held by Bartłomiej Ścibisz, Technical Director and Head of R&D Department, LaserTech company. He is working especially in laser welding, hybrid laser welding, laser cladding and hardening. And I think, please, that the floor is yours, and we have like all 15 minutes.
Thank you for your kind introduction. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Bartłomiej Ścibisz. I represent company LaserTech. Short presentation plan. I will start with a short company presentation, then a few words about SLM and LDM, so additive technologies. Much have been already said. And at the end, I will also talk about robotized laser system, because we are not only doing additive manufacturing, we are also doing laser welding, hybrid welding, and cladding hardening applications. So I would like to also show you a few applications in this area. So LaserTech, we are a Polish company. We are located in the south of Poland, in Tychy. As you can see, it's very near to the Czech and Slovakian border. 4 hours drive from Bratislava. At the moment we employ 25 people, and we have a hall of 2,000 square meters. Company profile. So Basically, we are a laser system integrator, so we can design and deliver to the final customer a robotized laser station. We can perform services in the field of laser technology. We can also make prototypes, pre-series for our customers, perform technological tests at our facility, and select and optimize the process parameters, of course, with the final aim to deliver a robotized station to the customer. We have several different robotized stations in Tychy. We have 2 lasers, 6 and 4 kilowatt lasers, several different process heads, so we are prepared to do any kind of tests, so I can encourage everyone to cooperate with us. We cooperate with industrial companies and also with scientific institutions. We have also our own lab, just to speed up all the research and to have very quickly the results of the tests. Short list of the companies short list of the scientific institutions that we've cooperated with. It's mainly institutions from Poland and also IWS from Dresden. So additive manufacturing, as it was told, at the moment we have 2 techniques: single selective layer melting and laser metal deposition. As for selective laser melting, of course it's a very revolutionary technique or technology, and it allows us to produce a final part, a final component directly from the 3D model, layer by layer. So this gives an enormous possibilities in the design stage, and as it was told, the industry has to know that there are new possibilities in the design area, because the engineers are no longer limited by traditional production methods like welding, casting, or milling. So in last years we could also see that the producers of the companies are building machines with higher productivity, because at the moment it's time to go from the prototypes to the serial production. So this means we have to use machines with higher productivity to lower the production cost, to lower the cost per unit. As you can also see on the chart, the revenue from the years 2009 till 2013, significant increase year per year of the revenue in the additive manufacturing. A few materials provided also by the university in Wrocław. As for Polish objective, we have a project called Innomet in Poland, which is funded approximately 75 million euros. The objectives are, of course, such as 3D modeling, using new materials in medical applications, performing online surgeries, or developing customized bioimplants. The second program is for aeronautics. This one is funded with an amount of 125 million euros. And here we can find such objectives as 3D modeling, innovative design, process of lightweight constructions, also using new materials in the aeronautics, reducing fry-to-buy ratio, increasing safety by developing new shapes and building new components. In the program of aeronautics, there's a program called Amphora. Yes, so this is one of the examples of the practical applications made for a Polish company. The design of this, the aim of this project was to obtain the knowledge how to build a very lightweight components to reduce the fuel consumption of the whole plane and to increase the safety. Build a lightweight construction, but still maintain the strength of the components, which is also possible. Bioimplants, so the project for the medicine. Here the aim was to develop a therapy for patients with tumor removal in the facial area. Some of examples have been already shown, so I will go further. Laser metal deposition. This technology gives us the possibility to build new parts or regenerate components. It all started with the cladding applications, so applying corrosion and erosion resistant coatings or wear resistant coatings on the components. At the moment, we can also find on the market machines that combines cladding process with milling process. So you can have a one machine in which you can build up the part and, for instance, mill it simply by changing the head inside the machine. So that also solves a lot of problems with the finishing of the parts and of the quality of the surface after additive manufacturing. One example of what we have done in Tychy, so regeneration of turbine gas blade. Here you can see the surfaces that were prepared for the cladding. Three surfaces. The base material was Inconel alloy. We used our robotization to clad these surfaces with Inconel 625, so you can build up the worn areas of the component, and then just simply by conventional milling you can have a proper part and you can reuse it in the machine. Just a quick comparison of the technologies SLM and LDM. In both techniques we can basically achieve 100% density. The limitation if the SLM is the diameter of the chamber in the machines. In the LDM we are only limited by the Handlichtung, because you can use a CNC machine, you can use a robot system. As for SLM, also the prices of the powder are much higher and we are limited by the amount available on the market. As for LDM, you can use a very wide range of powders, which are normally used also for cladding applications. With SLM, basically it is used for new parts, but it is also possible to regenerate worn components. In LDM, you can build new parts, you can regenerate, and you can just apply coatings. Now, the laser systems. I will talk a bit about laser beam welding, about combination of laser welding and arc welding, and about laser hardening processes. This is an example of one of our last projects, so a station for laser beam welding, which was delivered for the automotive company. As you can see here, the dimension 7 × 6 meters. We used a 6 kilowatt IPG laser for the laser beam welding process, and a head for welding called wobbling welding head. This means that you can use a motorized optics inside the head to wobble the beam around the circle. So basically you can adjust the diameter of the spot size for the welding process. So it's very flexible, because you do not have to change the optical components if you weld different part and you need different spot size. We have also used a seam tracking system in this application, so you can check the position of the joint in the real time, and the robot program is corrected automatically. Laser arc welding process, so a combination of laser beam welding and conventional arc welding process. So in one process you have the advantages of both of these technologies. So main advantage is high welding speed. You can achieve 3 up to 4 times higher welding speed in comparison to arc welding. I have even seen applications with welding speeds up to 6, 7, even 8 meters per minute using a tandem torch. Welding of thick plates in one seam. As you can see here, in standard arc welding process, you have to mill the joint, then you have to fill the joint with several seams. With hybrid welding technology, it's possible to do it just in one seam, so much faster process, higher welding speed, and you do not have to weld in several seams, you just do it in one. This is mainly used for the thick plates, because you can use the laser to have a very deep penetration welding. Less distortion. Laser technology in general gives a much smaller heat input to the element. As you can see here in the bottom, the comparison for laser hybrid welding, it's more or less 30% less heat input comparing to the arc welding process. So that means less distortion on the component after the process, so you do not have to make additional operations after the welding. Less machining for joint preparation, as I already showed here. Normally you have to do the milling, and now you just prepare the joint like this. So, of course, you reduce the cost of the preparation of the joint. Example of the station that we have delivered last year to the Polish company called Wilton. At the moment they are the third biggest trailer producer in Europe, so they have decided to use hybrid welding technology to increase their productivity. We have delivered a station in the dimension 17 × 6 meter, 6 kilowatt fiber laser, and a Fronius hybrid welding head, also with a scene tracking system. They are welding very long elements up to 6 meters, so in this case the scene tracking system is necessary to check the position on the joint during the welding process and correct the robot program. Example of a cladding application. This station was delivered also to a Polish company which clads corrosion, erosion resisting coatings for the energetic sector. At the moment they are using it to clad Inconel base alloys on steam boiler walls. As you can see, 4 robots with 4 motion tracks. This is just a picture of the one of the station. They have 2 of these, 4 lasers and a custom-made control system for the whole station. The advantage of using laser technology in this case was that it is possible to clad very thin coatings, 0.5, 0.6 millimeters instead of cladding 3 millimeters using ARC technology, which is the standard. And at the end, laser hardening, laser source can also be used to increase the surface hardness of metal components, mainly machine parts or tool parts. In general, this is a three-dimensional process because you just mount a process head on a robot, so you basically do a 3D hardening process. You do not have to use any additional cooling or additional tooling, comparing it to the standard induction hardening. Less heat input, lower distortion, so that means that refinishing work or the machining work after the hardening is not required or is significantly reduced. So that means we have also a cost reduction. And a few, I think, interesting examples, hardening components for the automotive company Fiat, which is located very near to us. Hardening of oversized dies for stamping. As you see, the dimensions quite big, 3.6 × 2.8 meters, 14.5 ton. Using a robot and a hardening head, you can do a selective hardening on the areas that need to have the increased hardness, but you do not overheat the complete element. And the last 2 examples, hardening of beds of heavy latte. We had a customer with a very large component, as you see, 35 tons, very big component, so it was very hard to bring it to us and do the laser hardening at LaserTech, so we have decided to pack the laser, robot, and or other necessary stuff and perform this process at the customer site. And as we did, total process time 54 hours with 17 square meters hardened area. This was, the time includes also the packing and unpacking, so it is possible to go with the laser station to the customer and perform a hardening process or a cladding process, do some regeneration at his site. And second example, even a bigger component, 56 tons, also this hardening process was performed at our customer site, 30 hours of process with a total of 7 square meters hardened surface. Okay, that's all from my side. Thank you very much for your attention.
I think that after these 5 presentations, we are sure that additive manufacturing isn't 3D printing. Additive manufacturing is the really very, very big knowledge from material science, physics, mechanics, control systems, and really very complicated technological systems with really very advanced control system. It is, we said, the colleague last presentation, the stable process, repeatable processes, it is the domain we should develop these tools and instruments to control it. Thank you very much. And now we have questions. Cost, I can explain the quite easy cost comparison of typical parts and aerospace. Our contacts with the UTC group, we have developed different technologies for this aviation sector, and we discussed, and I said, no, yeah, but the cost of additive manufactured parts is very, very expensive. And my partner said, no, how cost 1 kilogram of car? I said, about 50 euros. And 1 kilogram of aeroplane cost 3,000 euros. And we have this situation like aerospace industry, like aviation, like health. The cost is in typical market cost. It is in functionality and goals and comfortable. It is very important for the user and for technologists. So I think the most two very interesting questions. Important in commercialization are the cost of technology. Cost of AM decreased significantly in past. Is there a space for further decrease? Where? I think that class, do you have experience, and the colleague, they have an experience from practical side?
Yes, well, of course it can. Yes, the cost will be reduced. And actually, if you go from just moving one type of machine, like you have a standard 250, 300 build chamber laser or AM machine, and you go to a more professional one with a more powerful laser, more efficient powder distribution system, the price can go down with as much as 40%. So there, of course there's room for it, but there's also a question we have to ask here. Are we looking for the price of per kilo part? I would say that is the wrong question asked. It's rather to ask for the price of the function. And we can actually save a lot of money by designing the function differently, and then you may not need as much parts. And then the total production of the part could be actually much cheaper than it was with conventional manufacturing.
Thank you. Radovan, do you have your opinion too?
I just want to say that there is a space in, I think, powder production, because powder, it was 600 euros a couple of years ago for a kilo of titanium. Now it's 300, so it's decreasing. So I see space in powder production.
May I reply to that? Usually when people are buying powders, and did a couple of years ago, it was bought directly from the OEMs who deliver the machine systems. And they set the parameters. And they have had a little bit of the business model as you had with the desktop printers, that the printer cost almost nothing, but then they charge you an arm and a leg for the ink. You know all that. And they try to do the same thing with powders. Now as we're going into industrialization, industry does not accept this. So it's getting more and more moving towards you buy directly from the powder manufacturer, and like to say, that conventional powder metallurgy. So we're going that direction, but then we need somebody who can give you the right parameters for that powder and guarantee that you get the properties of it. And that means that the powder producers need to develop their capability in additive manufacturing. Not all of them are doing that yet, but they're coming. It will be more of this in the future.
Do you have made this additional opinion from your part? No. So the next, I think, is very important. It was in discussion and in presentation. The question, are here good examples of business models of additive manufacturing as a service for easy, low-risk trial by SMEs?
I could actually give a very nice example from Norway. there is a SME in Norway called Trondrud Engineering. They bought one of these EOS powder bed fusion machines to make prototypes for their machine builders, and all particular machines for the offshore oil industry. However, it's a family-owned company, and since Trondrud Junior was supposed to learn everything and go around in all the parts of the manufacturing, he eventually got to the AM machine and was told that, okay, learned how to handle it. Turns out that he is an enthusiastic hunter, and the guy who runs the machine is a trained gunsmith. So they sat down, oh, can we do something fun for hunting? Yeah, well, let's do a silencer for the moose hunt, for moose hunt rifles. That's cool, but it will cost some money. But titanium is cool, we'll do it in titanium. It costs money. I'll ask Dad, Junior said. And he came back and said, Dad says it's okay if we make one for him too. It turned out that this silencer became very, very good. They brought it to a fair, a hunting equipment fair in Norway, and at the same time was another company who wanted to introduce one that made by carbon fiber composites. At the start of that fair, the carbon fiber silencer costed 7 times as much as the titanium silencer. At the end of the fair, it was the same price. Now the carbon fiber silencer is not longer in the Norwegian market. However, Trondrud has sent out a tender both for the Norwegian army, but also for the British SAS, and a number of other armed forces. And if they get that order, that will be, well, they have problem in production, I can tell you that. But yes, it's a small time industry that has a very easy, low risk, and it could be a great success.
Thank you very much. We have the information, latest question, and I would like to ask you, do you have one question for your side? Yeah, please.
Okay, good morning. My name is Eduardo Beltrán from Mondragon Corporation. So we have some activity in, so we have some companies that manufacture machine tools, equipment. So have you got some experience in manufacturing parts of machinery in additive manufacturing?
Yes, I worked for the last year, I worked at Sandvik, Swedish corporation making parts for machine tools. They just started their additive manufacturing center a little bit more than a year ago, well, maybe 1.5. They've been launching their first parts, products on the market this year, and they have gone pretty far to improve the cutters for milling. And it's looked like they will be able to double the productivity of cutters. So yes, there is.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for speakers. It's really very interesting presentations, oriented especially for the industrial applications. Thank you very much for your participation in this session. I would like, in the name of our host organization, to invite you to lunch. Thank you very much.